some weekly updates. Did you want to talk about Sean's birthday?
No, we talked about it on the last podcast, but I'll go into my normal be stacking, be stacking, be stacking, right? If that's ounces of either gold or silver or any precious metal, platinum, palladium, and we talked about last show, even copper. Copper is a good buy. Copper has been it's been up. It's been up exponentially. So copper is a good buy. Be stacking your satoshis, right? You want to be stacking your satoshis. You want to be dollar cost averaging your satoshis. This is what you want to be doing, and daily. Keep this stuff on your mind daily. We're gonna wait till a couple people get in the room. I did want to remind people this is our 99th episode. All right, so we will be having something. We'll try to have something special for the 100th episode. We got some. We sent some things out to some people, see if they want to join on the 100th episode. So definitely, it's been a good run, 100 episodes. We're not quite where the gentlemen are. We're there over 1,000, but we're getting there. We're getting there. We're putting
They're
work
like at
in. Yeah,
1,200 shows.
yeah. So we're putting work in the game. We're trying to get there, y'all. But yeah. So other than that, we was talking about stacking, and we will next episode we will go over a year-end silver report and a 2024 outlook of what is going on from the mining, geological, what's coming out of the ground as opposed to what people expect to come out the ground. We're going to talk about the usage of solar panels needing silver as a industrial metal. Also, the electric vehicles are going to be needing silver as an industrial metal. So we will
We'll
be
talk
talking
about
about that. Next episode, 100th episode, we will be doing that. But today, Aaron had a few articles to go over. I only have one article to talk about, and that's we might keep it short and sweet today.
Yes, Chief is kind of tied up, so we're hoping he'll join us during the course of the show. I'm waiting for him to DM us back when he's ready. I want to welcome BK Crypto, who always seems to be first.
Yeah,
He
BK
goes
Crypto.
boom. So BK Crypto, next time you gotta be like, I'm first. First got no higher for all of my females who used to play double dutch and stuff like that. Um, okay,
Okay.
you go sit and cheer, Bubba. The little one is here,
Yeah, he's
being
here.
mischievous as possible. Um, if you know, you know, said, I'm sorry, BK Crypto, I didn't see your second comment. He said to stack those sats and turn a bag into a bank. So definitely continue doing that. Continue. You did say stack the silver. Did I zone out?
Yeah, stack them ounces, silver, gold, platinum, palladium, and copper, or whatever precious metal that you may be stacking. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the next episode. We're going to talk about the silver to gold ratio and why it is the appropriate time now to be going in on silver because of the silver to gold ratio gap. So we're going to talk about that in depth, and it just as we say, chop up some good game, and see what's going on. So what else would you have for the family?
If you know, you know, said 100 next. Congratulations, nothing but good and helpful information for every show. So thank you guys so much. If it wasn't for you, we would, that's your article, babe, I think. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have 100 shows. So we appreciate that. Did you want to go over, that's the Colonel. If you want to go over your article first, because my article is real in depth.
Okay, so I'll go over my article first. We're going to talk about the banks. It's redundant, but the banks are problematic, and we all know that. So we're going to go over the top 4 banks. Okay, so this is an article I came across last week. I've been sitting on it, but we need to go over it. We need to go into it. So this is from this is from the Daily Hodl, uh, which is a very reputable source, as we see. So we're going to talk about $181 billion in fines paid by the big 4 U.S. banks as J.P. Morgan CEO. At the same time, Jamie Dimon says cryptos for criminals. Very interesting.
Very interesting wording you use,
Yeah.
Jamie Dimon.
Who's the criminal? That's smooth criminal, is he? So hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fines have been paid by the four biggest banks in the U.S.: J.P. Morgan, who else? Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America, according to corporate misconduct data aggregator. So this is an aggregator of corporate misconduct. It's called Violation Tracker. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Citigroup, and JP Morgan have now collectively paid a staggering 181 billion in penalties since the year 2000. So we'll go over a little bit of that. Did you want to say anything in between? I mean, I can go into the numbers. Did you want to say anything?
I can't stop giggling at the article, right? Because I'm stuck on the cryptos were criminals yet.
Yeah. And
And
so,
Citigroup
oh
is a
boy.
subsidiary, if I'm not mistaken, of Chase. Y'all fact check me, but when you say Citigroup, like they're along with Chase,
Mm.
so
So they're
just all of your banks are
criminals.
in on this weird.
Yeah. And so this aggregator called Violation Tracker, they cover a range of civil and criminal banking offenses committed by banks, including foreign bribery, money laundering, corporate tax evasion, securities violations, accounting fraud, price fixing, employment discrimination. Price fixing, a big one. Come on, y'all, price fixing. So if you guys are familiar with JP Morgan Chase, they have been fined by, they have federally been fined, correct?
Yes.
By, not the IRS, they've been, I forget who they were fined by.
Yeah.
SEC, I'm sorry, come on, y'all. I'm sorry, I got to get my game together. For spoofing, right? And spoofing is price fixing of the silver price, right? Paper silver. They're spoofing. They received a almost $1 billion fine for spoofing. So
It was
yeah,
$1 billion because
yeah,
remember the article said they made 3 billion. They paid
$1 billion in
one.
fines.
Yeah.
So they came out on top, 2 billion. So the data shows that Bank of America has paid a total of 324 fines worth 87.2 billion since the start of the millennium, which means 2000. While Wells Fargo has been fined 261 times for a total of 27.5 billion.
Really?
Yeah,
Less?
less. You would think Wells Fargo was a little more.
Yeah, a little more discreet than
Okay.
Chase. Okay.
Okay. Violation tracker shows Citigroup was found to be in violation 181 times, paying 26.9 billion worth of fines, while JP Morgan has been hit with a total of 272 fines worth 39.3 billion.
Now, where does that money go?
Well, it's going to the SEC because that's
Oh,
who's finding them.
that's who's finding them, right? And then what
Yeah.
do they do with the money?
Oh, good question. Good question.
I guess they just keep it,
Yeah.
right?
And so, and you know what we find interesting about this is, you know, as these new numbers come out, recently CEO Jamie Dimon tells Congress during a recent meeting that crypto assets are tools for bad actors that he would shut down if he could. Bad actors? What?
Well, we know.
He's calling somebody a bad actor. I'll let you go with.
Well, we know whenever you hear them denounce things, right? They are always denouncing something that is created in order to keep them honest, right? So when we talk about crypto, crypto is heavily reliant on a blockchain where everything you do is documented and transparent for everyone to see. All this backdoor dealing they got going on that they're getting fined for, we can't see what they're doing back in behind them doors. We can't see the deals that they're making under the table. We can't see those secret handshake agreement deals that they do, you know, on their yachts and stuff outside of the maritime law or whatever, right? Because
Yeah.
remember, banks, currency, all of that's money. I mean, all of that's money, but it's also water related. Okay, baby, go use the shovel. So it's almost like a Freudian slip, right? When he says that,
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's like, oh, it's criminal behavior, and bad actors are gonna be using it for their own. And it's like, don't believe the hype,
And that's all he really can say. He
right?
can say nothing else.
But you know, when you start digging into that, none of that's true. Bad actors can what can you use crypto for criminally? Like,
Ah.
really?
And I'm gonna just read this last part of the article exactly by what you said, okay? So last year, the crypto research firm Chain Analysis determined that while 5% of global gross domestic product is laundered every year in fiat currency, so 5%, just 0.05% of all crypto transactions involve money laundering, right?
So look at the difference in numbers.
So,
Now, here's what they do though. They do take advantage of the layperson's, I'm going to call it laziness in doing their due diligence, right? And that's why the propaganda machine has worked for so long. It's starting to kind of break down now in the era, in the age of knowing where truth runs abound. But they do because they make economics seem so complicated that your layman is not going to dig deep into trying to figure that out.
and you remember, we went over a long time ago scientific notation, which is very important because we're talking about 5% as opposed to 0.05%. So we're talking about, right?
$5 versus 5 cents.
Yeah, we're talking about a factor of 10 times 10, right?
Right.
So, keep that in mind.
So that $5 bill is laundering fiat currency, right? And then that nickel is the representation of crypto bad dealings or,
bad actors. So,
bad actors.
He's not coming to us, Jamie Dimon, in good faith. And I think most people who are deep in the game understand Jamie Dimon is not somebody that you're going to try to listen to.
And he's not a good actor. We know that.
He is a bad actor. So that's what I had on the daily hodl. The banks are being fined and they're just out of control. The banks are out of control. But I'm going to let Erin go into what she had.
So let me just welcome a few more people. Ooh, be careful,
Sorry,
baby.
my phone, sorry, y'all.
Into the room. Can you just get YouTube up for Tina?
Yeah.
Let me see. So Cryptonomics joined the room. He said, let's go Shiba Inu. Crazy Bronx Don, aka the Fulberg Colonel, because he is.
Salute.
Say, yo, what up, fam? Hi, Colonel. Thank you so much for joining us. Crypto Burger, Adidas. All day I dream about Shiba. Reek W said 100 for 100. KW1 just joined the room. Hello, sweetheart. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you all are having a great Saturday. It's the end of the Sabbath. Hassan is here in the house. Thank you so much for joining us, Hassan. The Sabbath is over. We're going to get into a few things.
Yeah, we are.
We're still waiting to see if maybe the Colonel may, be careful,
okay.
baby.
No worries.
May join us today or not.
The chief,
But
you say.
the chief, I'm sorry, not the Colonel, the chief.
Colonel's with us. Right?
Yes, Colonel is here with us. Thank you so much for catching that. I'm going to piggyback off of what hubby just read to you guys, right? Because we are reading about these 1%ers finding ways to take advantage of our economic energy, our economic output. Two, right? You see how frustrated he is with crypto? This is why they're frustrated, right? They're frustrated because crypto allows the everyday person to get somewhat of a leg up on their own economic output. It gives them the ability to preserve their purchasing power, right? Or even boost it during certain swings of the market. It gives us a boost in purchasing power. Like no matter what we do, we keep messing with this, right? So I have some articles in the drop down for you guys. Give me 1 second, y'all. We're here along with this baby, and he is. Give me that, baby. Okay, that's good.
Good job, buddy.
So I want to read off this article, but really, I want to read off the points of the article, and that is the most important aspect. I'm going to read off the emphatic points. I want you guys have it's a Time Magazine article. You have access to the article, but this is like meat, right? This isn't milk. This is meat, right? This is a whole meal. And I want y'all to kind of like chew on it, meditate on it, let it marinate in your soul so that we can really understand that the economic war they've been waging against us, according to this article, has been since
Yeah,
1975.
and like she said, this is also giving you information that is going into the future, right?
Yes.
So projections out in the future. So you, as a person, that people that we talk to, you can elucidate ways that you can make changes moving forward. So that's why these articles are very important.
So these articles are really referencing the W-2 employees, so
Yeah.
your 9 to 5er. Okay, so I just want to understand what demographic that they are looking at. Doesn't necessarily not count your 1099 or your contractors. What's wrong? You okay? It doesn't necessarily not count your 1099ers, your contractors, but it really does focus on the W-2 employee.
Yeah. Oh wow.
That's a lot of points. I jotted
Oh,
all of
you
the points
typed?
down. No, I just copied and pasted.
Okay.
So the article is basically saying that the top 1% of Americans have taken 50 trillion with a T from the bottom. Now it says 90%, it really should say 99%, right? Because when you
Yeah.
do the math, that doesn't make sense. So I'm going to keep using 99%, even though many of you guys are going to be reading the article for yourselves, and notice that it keeps talking about the top 90%. So that's 50 trillion that would have gone into the paychecks of working Americans had inequality held constant. Now, keep in mind, Time Magazine, we have these economic scientists, is what I'm going to call them, who have did this study from 1975 to 2018. Okay, 50 trillion that would have built for larger and more prosperous economy, 50 trillion that would have enabled the vast majority of Americans to enter into the pandemic for a more healthy, resilient, and financially secure. They're going to constantly be talking back to the pandemic, which was 2 years ago for us, but the article, I think it was written in 2020, but they are going to be referencing the pandemic. Yes, thank you, sweetheart. It says, imagine how much safer, healthier, and empowered all American workers would be if that 50 trillion had been paid out in wages instead of being funneled into corporate profits and the offshore accounts of the super rich. Imagine how much richer and more resilient the American people would be. Imagine how many more lives would have been saved had our people been more resilient. For example, are you a typical Black man earning at least $35,000 a year? You're being paid at least $26,000 a year less than you would have should the distributions held constant. Okay, so look at that. That's almost $30,000 less than a person should be paying based on the same economic output being output from 1975 to 2018. 2, are you a college-educated, prime-age, full-time worker earning at least $72,000? Depending on the inflation index used, rising inequality is costing you between $48,000 and $63,000 a year. And when you start doing the math, right, 72,000 minus 63,000 doesn't leave you with much. And they're showing you that based on the same economic output, this is the problem that you're having. I got something on my headband driving me crazy. If you earn below the 90th percentile, the relentlessly upward redistribution of income since 1975 is coming directly out of your pocket. It's coming out of our pockets. As Price and Edwards explained, from 1947 through 1974, real incomes grew close to the rate of per capita economic growth across all income levels. That means for 3 decades, those at the bottom and the middle of the distribution saw their incomes grow about the same rate as those at the top, right? So it gave workers from 1947 through 1974, it gave them a chance to get the same increase in wealth growth as someone at the top.
But let's talk about why that is. And we've talked
Does
about this
anybody
before.
know why? We know. So remember the years of
See
1947
if I can see
to
the,
1974.
see what the people are saying in case, just in case somebody wants to speak on it, but we know what the reasoning is, right? We know that our great and wonderful president, Richard Milhouse Nixon,
Not Millhouse.
took the U.S. dollar, which is fiat currency, off the gold standard, August 15th, 1971, temporarily, as he stated. All these years later, we're still temporarily off the gold standard for over what? About 53 years. Coming up 2014, 52, 53 years. And so what was happening is because you couldn't print money, like she said, the everyday man had a chance to close that gap.
Because gold is real sound money.
Yeah.
Right? And it appreciates in value. But go ahead, baby. And gold and silver at the time accounted for each and every single dollar.
And even though that that the dollar was on the gold standard, we understand it wasn't a one for one, right?
At the time, no.
At the time, it's a percentage, fractional, if you will, but it still is accountability, right? And so once taken off of that, that really hurt the everyday man trying to keep up with the wealthy, the top 1%, right?
In addition to several other factors that are done methodically,
Yes.
strategically, and very much on purpose, conspiring against you. I believe that the majority of Americans don't know what conspire means.
Yeah, and
right? It's not a theory. If people are coming together and planning against you, they are conspiring against you. Conspiracy is a thing.
And just the thought of, you see a lot of things, the thought of people telling you to save your fiat currency in savings instead of trying to invest it, or just save it in something that will increase in value over time. As we talk about, and there was no Bitcoin back then, we talk about precious metals, right? Precious metals against the US dollar. If you go look at the chart, you see the US dollar go this way and precious metals goes this way, which we call an inverse correlation. But at the same time, because people can't spend precious metals like you can spend fiat currency, you see a lot of people who are reluctant to put a lot of money in there because it's hard to liquidate.
It's hard to liquidate, but that difficulty in liquidation works to your benefit because then you don't liquidate for stupid stuff. Here, baby, let me just turn this down a little bit because mommy can't.
Open the sandwich. He wants a sandwich.
Oh, I can't concentrate.
So yeah, that's what that is, and that started, back in 1971. And you guys go check out that chart. I'll put it in the description. But if you overlay the chart of the U.S. dollar against gold, right? And we use gold as the standard, but you could overlay it against silver. You will see the difference, and you will see that gold goes up, silver goes up, and then the dollar goes down. Like we say, 1 ounce of gold, no matter what time in history, should buy a man a fine suit. So right now, gold's right around $2,000. You should be able to go out and get a fine suit, a man's tailored fine suit for $2,000. If you want to read, a couple people popped in.
Just Wall Street Pickers, thank you so much for joining us. He wants to know if there was a dogfight between Bonk, Doge, and Shiba, who would win based on merit, not hype. I'll let y'all hash that argument out in the comments. But I'm going to get back to what we were talking about.
I'm going to go with Doge on that one. But yeah.
So 1947 to 1974, this was the era in which America built the world's largest and most prosperous middle class, an era in which inequality between income groups steadily shrank, even as shocking inequalities between the sexes and races largely remain. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I am going to talk about the race, but I'm not going to go into the gender thing. Women already know, men already know, so I don't have to beat that horse to death. But I'm going to make a few points here. Around 1975, this extraordinary era of broadly shared prosperity came to an end. Notice he said around 1975 because that's when we started to see the consequences of taking the dollar off, even the fractional gold standard. Since then, right, pause for drama. Since then, the wealthiest Americans, particularly those in the top 1%, and the 0.1% have managed to capture an ever larger share of our nation's economic growth. I'm going to say that one more time. You got the top 1% and the top 0.1% who were able to capture the ever larger, the lion's share of our nations. This is a collective thing now. Economic growth. That's crazy. And it should be illegal as hell. In fact, almost all of it, I am quoting Time magazine, their real income skyrocketing as the vast majority of Americans saw little, if any, gains.
Yes.
At every income level up to the 90th percentile, wage earners are now being paid a fraction of what they would have had equality held constant. For example, at the median individual income of $36,000, workers are being shortchanged by $21,000 a year. So you're telling me that the average person who makes around $36,000 a year should be making $57,000 a year. This is what we're talking about. Whenever you hear Simon and I say they are siphoning off your economic output, your economic energy, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and she said wage earners, and that's a very specific
W2,
term.
yeah.
That's a very specific term because you go back into, and I'm not going to go too deep in this. Maybe we can if necessary, but you go back into somebody like Karl Marx, who speaks Marxism. Wage earners are called proletariats, which means all that means is that all you have to offer is your labor to earn money, right? And so, and you will be, because that market is flooded, right? It's a lot of people who have physical labor to offer, and that's why the prices can stay low on how much they pay people for physical labor, right? When you start getting to like in intellectual property and things, they have to pay people more for that.
Right.
High end. So keep that in mind. And I'm not a Marxist, but just keep that in mind when you talk about wage earners, proletariats, and also the ability to get these type of jobs in this day and age when they're using AI to phase out a lot of things. So you just have to be cognizant of these things.
Right, because while AI does come with overhead, don't get me wrong, people think like, oh, if you have AI, you don't have to pay nothing. No, you do have to maintain it. You got to pay for the maintenance, upgrade, like just like you got to upgrade your phone, your network, and it's like that. You do have to do those things. If you have a physical robot, you have to have somebody on board or
Exactly. Maintenance on board.
yeah, but you have to have somebody online in order to keep your robot online, et cetera, et cetera. So it does come with its overhead, but you don't have to pay it anything, and it runs 24/7 for you. That's another way that they're going to find a way to siphon off your economic energy, right? By just simply replacing you.
So let's talk about that. I mean, we've been over this before, but no, let's go over it again. We talked about economic energy. You wanted to take the money that you spent your physical energy working for, I should say fiat currency working for, and you want to be able to place it somewhere where you can unlock it over space and time, and it's more than when you placed it there. And that's
Right.
why we talk about Bitcoin so much. That's why we talk about precious metals, so that you can unlock the energy you put in to get this fiat currency and unlock it at a later time and date. And that is a big thing in thermodynamics. We had a show about that, but we can always go back into it because it's very important.
I think it's great too that Time Magazine did provide this economic time study because it gets you to see exactly how your economic energy, how your economic output is being siphoned off, at what level, at what rate, how much it's costing you, and so on and so forth. It is actually a great biometrics
Yeah.
for you to look at
There you
across
go.
the
I love
board.
it. Biometrics, analytics. This is what we're talking about.
Well, I say biometrics because we're talking about human
Yeah.
energetic output versus economic input or economic revenue. What's wrong, babe?
I just wanted to check to see. I think somebody had spoke.
No,
Okay.
no more comments. So we said that individuals earning On or about 36,000 are being shortchanged by 21,000. They really should be making at least 57,000. Unlike the growth patterns in the 50s and 60s, this is what Price and Edwards, they were the ones who conducted this economic time study for you. The majority of full-time workers did not share in the economic growth of the last 40 years, right? Last 40 years. On average, extreme inequality is costing the median full-time worker about $42,000 a year.
Yes.
Let me read that one more time.
Yes, indeed.
This extreme, that's the word that they used, inequality is costing the median income full-time worker about $42,000 a year.
Yes, and this is something that Max Kaiser, uh,
And
Stacy Herbert, Bitcoin OGs they spoke about. And you can see the charts about it. And what it will show once again is an inverse correlation. What you see is the 1%ers money going this way as you see the average middle class workers income going down. And they have these charts and these overlay of charts that you can look at and see how people who are rich are getting richer, and as they unfortunately say, the poor are getting poorer. And because of a lot of things like people saving in the dollar as the dollar loses its value, as opposed to people who invest and gain value.
Right. But another thing is why I thought this economic time study was important to share with you guys is because once I get to the end of the economic time study, you're going to understand, and it's more than the dollar using value. There's a whole recipe that's been cooked up, right? No pun intended, in order to conspire against every American who isn't a 1%er, who isn't a 0.1%er, right? In order to siphon off. Y'all ever heard of archons? For those of you who know what an archon is, y'all know what it is, but I'm gonna explain it to those who may not. Picture an entity consuming your energy. If your energy was like let's say it was like a smoke that walked around you, these entities are siphoning off as much of that smoke off of you as possible, leaving you what we would call economically emaciated. Just like how you could see somebody who don't eat, like if they had a parasite or a tapeworm, and the tapeworm was taking all of their sustenance and they just kind of like wasted away. That's what they're trying to do to us collectively, individually and collectively, and they're trying to basically economically emaciate us.
This is true. And this is why we always speak about arbitrage, because we've talked about this. She's speaking about the 1% in the United States.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the U.S., y'all.
But when you go out and
Globally.
zoom out, as we talk about in Bitcoin, the 1%, the number changes. And, 1%, I believe, is close to 800,000, where 1% in the United States will be a much higher number. Yeah. So you have to also understand whatever your wealth is, you have to look at it globally. Like if I took my wealth and transferred it to somewhere else globally, then you would move up on the scale, right? And so, like I said, the last check, $4,200, I believe, will make you at the 50th percentile in the world.
Right.
And so, I think about 90,000 had you in the top 10%, where in the top 10% of the United States, it's close to 400 to 500,000. So you have to understand the arbitrage of the wealth that you have built that you can use globally, and or if you want to stay local. And so that's always something to keep in mind, because you live in probably one of the most expensive countries in the world, and you will be taxed for it, right?
Yes.
You will be taxed for it, and you could take your money and you can go somewhere else and be a higher net earner, right?
Yes.
And wealth. So, keep this in mind in your strategic ploy. We talked about planting flags. This is why you have investments in other countries, things like that, so that you can be maybe a higher tier of level as far as like what you say, middle class,
Mm-hmm.
upper middle class, maybe top middle classes. These are things that you look at in your journey and for the arbitrage.
Now, before I go on, I kind of want to piggyback off to what he said. When we talk about the arbitrage, one, they're making it harder and harder and harder for you to find. No, don't move that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They're making it harder and harder for you to find arbitrage. They're making it harder and harder not for you to find the arbitrage, to capitalize on the arbitrage.
Yes.
That's one,
Hmm.
right? Like when we start talking about smart cities and stuff like that. Two, I wish I could see this economic study macro. So on a level of globally,
Hmm.
how it's being siphoned off the everyday person, right? Like I love it that the biometrics report is for the United States, but I would love to see it globally,
Okay.
or at least maybe continent to continent, and you can kind of put it together. Three, the question asks, okay, in addition to greed, just sheer greed, why? Why are you guys conspiring to siphon $50 trillion? You stole $50 trillion from 99% of Americans. That money did not go back into the economy. I read that to you.
Yes.
Why? Because we cannot control you if you have any means or measures of financial independence.
Hmm.
I'm going to say it again. They cannot control you psychologically, spiritually, emotionally, right? Family wise. That's why I said this war is very strategic. It's very methodological. The enmity between man and woman, not you having children. We don't want you forming families because there's strength in that. Remember what they used to do to the slaves? First thing they realized was we got to split the family up
Yeah.
in order to maintain and to capitalize on the control that we want over them. That goes out to a larger macro view. Okay. Let me just read off some of your comments. The Colonel said, yes, indeed. Go back and break it down. PFC Wells, thank you so much for joining us, PFC Wells. You know, we always love to have you. You've been with us for a long time. He said, hello, hello to the room in Spanish. Yeah, the extreme dynamics economic landscape is real. The flips is mind blowing when you start to dig into the details on what the numbers and the headlines really mean. More like a light energy field. Thank you, PFC. Well, that's what I was picturing in my mind, like a light energy field. And they're siphoning all the light till there's no light left. So thank you. PSC Wells said middle and upper middle class is relative to what market you live and operate in. That's true. But let me tell you, as far as we're talking about the U.S. market, they are trying to obliterate the middle class, right? What they want is what typical countries have, and that is the wealthy and the impoverished. And that's it.
So I mean, and did you have another one you was going to read?
One more, and then I'll let you make your point. I no longer have to mess with poor people at the trailer park. I'm finally middle class now. So keep up the good work, y'all. That was Wall Street Pickers.
Okay.
He clowning today. Go ahead, babe.
I was gonna say, they say that my numbers could be off because this is an older study, but about 67% of black people in the United States work for the government.
Yep.
So, with that being said, the government pay is public record, public knowledge, right?
Mhm.
So you understand how much people make if they work for the government, whatever government agency it may be. You understand the amount of money I'm just going off of PFC Wells as far as smashing the middle class.
Gotcha.
Right. So you know how much somebody makes if they work for the state, they work for the city, they work federally. You know how much they make. You understand, and you know that they are being squeezed out. Correct. Now you hear all this stuff on, as she says, the enmity between men and women. Somebody says, I want a man who makes $250,000, right? You go look at government pay, you understand that people don't make that. People do not make that amount of money.
And then we also said that if he does make that, he's being shortchanged thousands of dollars, right? Tens of thousands of dollars at that. And we're going to get more into that in a minute. But the other thing that we wanted to bring up is when you have, and let's just talk traditional households, right?
Yeah.
This is why y'all can fight with me in the comments if you want to. I'm going to say what I'm going to say, and that's what I said, right? Two-parent households, the reason why they are glorifying independence, right? Y'all go be an independent woman. You know, the LGBTQ thing, this, that, and the other. Girl, if he ain't acting right, divorce him. If she ain't what you want her to be, she can't be a porn star in the bedroom for you. Let her go get something else. Is because each of these people have their own household, right? It's a money grab. Whereas two people are going to put their money together in one household, those resources are shared in one collective household. If he live in his house and I live in my house, he got a baby mama who live in her house, I got a baby daddy who live in his house. That's four people they siphoning off their economic energy from, and it's at a more exponential rate. Whereas trying to siphon the economic energy off of a traditional unit, a traditional nuclear family, is a lot harder.
Yes.
Understand that,
It's
right?
very
Psychologically and economically, they know what they're doing.
right.
Okay, so I'm not
Yeah.
disparaging any of these lifestyles, but I'm telling you, there's a money grab to it.
It is, and you know that like she said, that energy. I got my own type of energy.
Yeah.
Really is negative because, as she said, you want to come together as a unit.
It's harder to siphon off the economic energy. First of all, instead of siphoning off the economic energy off of two separate households,
Yep.
they're trying to do it from one, and typically the one fortifies together, especially when they have a family, like how we have adult sons and stuff. They bring their revenue and they're here before they kind of go off into the world, and they are contributing to the household. Right, so it's a fortified household, and it's just harder for them to siphon off. Not that they're not siphoning it off; they siphoning it off, right? I'm not saying they're not. It's just a bit harder than, instead of having this one family, you got him. He got a baby here. Child support go there. Child support go there. She got this guy here. His child support come to her. His child support come to her. But there's 5 people or 6 people that are contributing to this economic siphon instead of one household.
Yeah, and when you go on here and you watch, because I know that it's loud in the community, these relationship shows, you often hear people, men and women, say, "I didn't see a two-parent household when I grew up," so they really don't understand and know how to do that.
Right.
And so what we're saying is, sometimes, not sometimes, probably all the time, the example of a two-parent household allows the children to see this is how we do it.
Yeah, and they want to break down the replication
Yeah.
of two-parent households.
Yes, yes. Indeed.
So there's more to it than just tradition. That's a whole nother show for a whole nother day, but it is very critical. It's a critical component in this, what we're talking about with the economic siphoning of your energetic output.
What did somebody say something about tradition? What did they say?
Well, not tradition, but PFC Wells said, look into Catherine Austin Fitts. She's been talking about the government missing money and offshore money for cores.
Oh, wow.
The colonel said, break it down, Aaron. Blues Battery is worried that they may have missed too much. You didn't. Right now, we are talking about how the 1% has siphoned $50 trillion out of your economic output, your economic energy, into their pockets. And we're going to start talking about how long they've been doing this, why they're doing it, and so on and so forth. The colonel said that's why partner selection is such a challenge. It is, right? Because the programming's real bad as well.
So let me talk about that as well, because partner selection is critical in what you are trying to do, right? When it's
Yes.
time to pick your partner. I'm sorry,
Yes.
I'm laughing at her. Here's the thing, and I mean, I'm not banging on anybody, but far too often they'll tell women, kind of, in your 20s, whatever,
To date around.
and find yourself and this, that, and the third. But in the old days, it was about marrying off, and I'm not saying marrying somebody off, but what I'm saying is getting to this thing right now, right? for example, Aaron and I, we got married fairly young, I guess, in the eyes of people.
Very young.
But it works out that way, For one, everybody's talking about some kind of body count for the women, so that's always problematic, and that's another show for another day. Men need to get into their purpose. If you listen to Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, he will talk about men, and he'll tell you you need to get into your purpose as a very young man, right?
Yes.
And he will always say, what else better do you have to do? So you get to building your family early on. And a lot of people hang out here too long, and then you hear these videos and these shows, and somebody's 37 and they're trying to settle down. It's really, really hard at that point. And so
A lot of baggage.
a lot of baggage.
Too. I don't know what y'all got going on in the world today, but I noticed they've been pushing real hard the ideology of women having babies in their 40s. Oh, Ashanti pregnant with her first baby. She's 43. Janet Jackson had a baby at 50. And what's the tennis player's name?
Serena.
Serena's having another baby. And y'all, right? You can die having a baby that old and your first baby at that. I'm not going to get into all of that, but just to piggyback off of what he's saying, men want legacy.
Let's talk about it.
And it's easier to have, your body is more yielding to children when you have them young.
Let's talk about it. Let's be transparent. My beautiful wife here, she had her last baby at 36, and she almost died. Like, really almost died.
But Serena almost died. She told the story too.
And I was there in the room as they're giving birth. I'm watching her almost die. I'm looking at the medical staff like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. Eventually, we got it under control. And this is at 36.
And we lost our twin at 13 weeks.
And this is when it's like, okay, people always say, oh, you want to have more children? I say, no, because that was it. I said, this is it. We're not having any more children.
Traumatize them, y'all.
It's traumatizing.
Y'all know I want like 3 more babies. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't traumatize them again. But it's just easier to start your family younger, right? You can, forget the economic investment of multiple children, right? I don't want to have to talk to y'all about that because it's a lot. But we're just saying that a lot of the rhetoric that's out today is bad rhetoric. A lot of and this is based on experience. This is based on talking to a lot of people, but the rhetoric is bad because at the end of the day, behind it, it's always some type of money grab. It's always about some type of control, and the control is over your purse strings, right? If I can control your mind, I can control your purse strings. And that's really what it gets to. If I can make you sick with food and sick with medicine, I can control your mind. If I can control your mind, I can figure out ways to pull the money out of your purse strings. But I'm going to make you work for it, right? Wealthy people, they don't work for money. Their money works for them. We know this. And at those levels, when they have these things, this war waged against there's a hot, fiery hell for these people, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is.
We'll go through that another day.
And I want to just piggyback off of that, and then she's going to go into the comments. She's talking about the wealthy people. You got 3 levels. We used to talk about you work for your money, then you get your money to work for you, and then the 3rd level, you get somebody else's money to work for you.
Which is that 3rd level.
That's that
our money level. Is working for them.
Yeah, so you keep that in mind.
Let's head back to this biometrics report and let's break it down, y'all. Half, so this is 50% of all, that's 100%, full-time workers, right? At 50,000 or a bit below, now earn less than half. They are at 50,000. You're earning less than half of what you would have had your income been properly distributed based on the numbers from 1975 and keeping up pace with the economic growth, right? So many of you guys are TikTokers and Snapchatters and Facebook reelers and Instagram reelers. I know y'all have seen reel after reel after reel of people saying, I have earned more than I've ever earned before, and I'm still paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, this is true because I just read an article this morning. I want to say it was from Reuters, where people were talking about making over $100,000 and still being paycheck to paycheck, right? And you know, the money is rate adjusted. People keep putting this number on people. It's rate adjusted. You make 100 grand, you live in New York City, rate adjusted. I believe that comes down to about 45,000, so on and so forth. Your median line, places like Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, Charlotte, Atlanta. These are the places where you can actually see what your money is. You go out to San Francisco, right? You
Or
go
San
out
Diego,
San Diego, Los Angeles, you know.
LA.
Yeah. So your $100,000 doesn't really go far. But if you go to a place like Toledo, Ohio,
Oh
right?
boy.
Gary,
Oh
Indiana,
boy.
you know,
Gary's up and coming. We'll talk about that in another show. Go ahead.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Now your 100,000 means something, but people gotta get away from the number. You gotta understand this stuff is rate adjusted around the country, and that's why we say even if you have the ability to make this type of money, what would you say remotely, you can go and capitalize on that globally,
And a
right?
cheaper
And so a
market.
lot of people they're going out to Thailand, Kuala Lumpur, and their 100,000 or whatever, 75,000, 50,000 is going three, four times over. And people are living great lives in other places. And I know it's scary to go abroad and this, that, and the third, but
Okay, so he's saying they're living their best lives at other places, but
yes,
those people do understand that there are some give and take, and that's what the average person doesn't understand.
yes.
There are some give and takes. We tell y'all that all the time, right? The Colonel said lack of examples has been underappreciated as a major factor in societal mishaps, but it's been purposeful programming, Colonel. Purposeful programming. They've been conspiring against everybody for a very long time. Now I'm going to talk about something real quick and then we're going to get back to the numbers. But I was telling Simon the other day, right? We hear, let me choose my words carefully. We hear
Yeah.
women in general talk about men ain't this and men ain't that and they cheat and yada, 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 and they do this and they do that. Let me tell y'all something. When Donald Sterling was running around with that young Asian chick who and disrespected Magic, his wife didn't say, you ain't it and I'm leaving you. They conspired together to figure out how to save the franchise because it was in trouble. And they were forcing him to sell. You didn't hear Melinda Gates say one word when it came out that Bill Gates been dating that other young girl. And I'm not saying it's okay for men to cheat on you. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that rich people move differently than we do.
Yeah.
The women get together with the men. Even when y'all look at Jeff Bezos' wife, he been running around with that little plastic thing forever, right? His wife didn't say one word. They came together, business agreement, put all of the stuff together, separated amicably. She don't have a bad thing to say about him, even though she had to work 2 jobs so that he can put Amazon together. She's not on the Fresh and Fit podcast beating him down and berating him. And I'm just going in to say this isn't a color thing, this is a socioeconomic thing. I'm saying that they operate differently because they understand that the family unit is legacy. And then what they do is they give us like, nah, you don't want to tolerate that, go about your way. Nah, you don't need no man in your life. There's no value to a man. You know, you have children, you don't need a man. You make the child and then take care of it on your own. Right? Men, you can have multiple women. That's what you should be doing in order to kind of break the household apart. And women, you can cheat too. Yada, 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 yada. So that's what I'm saying is they act one way and then they pour on us different rhetoric for the money grab because that's where the money is in the individual households. That's where the control is in the individual households. We talk about in the same 70s, and you start to see after they took the money off the standard, for Black people, I'm talking about, if you wanted any type of supplemental income, governmental supplement income, you had to kick the man out the house. We'll take care of you and the children, but he got to go.
Yes.
And the women were like, I could struggle with him, or I could kind of just live this certain way without him. And that was the beginning of not finding value in the man. They did that on purpose, right? And I'm not going to go into all of that because we got to get back to the numbers. Blues Battery said $100,000 a year is 4.4 million in Thailand. We need to go to Thailand. Take it from a 50-plus-year-old. If you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, please take heed to what the Simons are laying down. Make use of your time because you can't get the time back.
Yeah, you can.
Guru James said, "What's good?" Guru James in the house. Thank you so much for joining us,
and
Guru James.
I'm not sure who said that, but man,
What?
about you can't get the time back, man.
That was the Colonel.
Okay, people have to understand time is your most valuable
Commodity.
So we always
Period.
have to be cognizant of that, how you use your time. All right, now the colonel used his time very well. This is a full bird colonel in the military. He used his time very well, right?
I think so.
Over the course of time.
I would agree.
People don't use their time well. One of the things that we like to say is you see in the in this kind of younger generation, and I'm not banging on younger generation, but people kind of popping back and forth in different jobs, different things, entrepreneur, what you do. But like somebody like the colonel put it down
and master that particular thing.
Yes, he mastered it. He is the colonel.
But that's also game somebody got to give you.
This is true. This is
right?
true.
Like
or either that's the way you got to been raised and understand.
There you go.
So either or. But yeah, we always love the colonel, man. We're going to get the colonel on here live.
He's shy, y'all.
So he can chop
he got so much wisdom. He's just real shy.
Yeah, he can chop up some good game.
And he wants to make sure he has his stuff down. So, okay. So I was telling y'all that 50% of all full-time workers, 100%, making at least $50,000, earn less than half than what they would have, right? And I brought up the TikToks and stuff about people saying this is more than they've ever earned. Imagine if they were actually earning what they were supposed to be earning. Okay? And then it says here, and this is the important part of what I'm about to say, this is per worker, not per household. That these people are earning less than half of what they had. So if you got husband and wife, let's say earning 50 and 50, they are earning less than, not half, 25, less than half. So somewhere between 15 and 20.
Wow, run that back on me.
Okay.
I got lost in the
So
math.
half, 50% of all full-time workers, 100% of them,
So half of them.
right, now earn less than half if they're making $50,000 a year. We know that half is 25, so less than half, and we just throwing a number out there, gotta be like
12.5.
right?
Okay.
So they're making what, 12,500 on or about?
Well, I
Because
mean,
it's less than half. Doesn't say what the number actually is.
but the half is half of 100%.
Right.
Okay.
So they're saying that if you have a group of W-2 workers, and it's a lot of people, 50% of them are making less than half what they should be if they're making $50,000 a year.
Right.
And don't really even know it.
Right.
Right? So when you hear people say now, I'm making more money than I've ever made before, and I'm still living paycheck to paycheck, we understand the numbers now. Okay, let's keep it pushing. And that's per worker, not household. So that's everybody. Okay. They said the 25th percentile households comprised of a married couple with one full-time worker earning, it says, thousands of dollars less in 2018 than the comparable household of a married couple with one person in 1975.
Okay.
It says, and 50 and 66,000 less, respectively, than if inequality held constant. So when they do that math over the time, this couple, this household with a married couple, let's say only one person's working, because that's what it was back then, right? Let's say this is talking about only one person working, they're making 50 to 66,000 less respectively than they did in 1975. Right?
So let's talk about
and we know that 66,000 is closer to 100,000 than it's not. Just meaning like how much you're really losing.
So let's talk about that real quick. You know, back in those days, she's talking about, I can go back 60s, 70s. One person working in the household, that was the blueprint. Usually it was the man who worked, the woman kind of stayed home with the children, right? This was another tactic splitting up the family where they forced both people to have to
Work.
and then all of a sudden you got
There's
to take
nobody to watch the kids, or
you gotta
nobody
take-
respectable to watch them.
you got to take them to daycare. You got to do
Mm-hmm.
this and that, and it's really hard in today's economy to find a type of job where one person can work and one person can stay home. Typically, you'll see the man working and the woman staying home. You hear a lot about this high value man, $100,000 and above, so that he can work, she can stay home. You know, this becomes problematic, and you know, in different ways, because what you have here is you got two different things. With what I say is two different things. You would see somebody who has built themselves up to be a high earner, if you will, and then have a woman come along, and or the alternate is you see somebody who got with a woman early on, what I think is better, and she stayed with you while you built yourself
I
up,
think so.
right? And so you see a lot of that back and forth, high earners, this, that, and third, too much entertainers, too much athletes, and all that stuff, right?
Pushing foolishness down your throat. We'll
Because
talk
we're
about that in a minute.
because we're dealing with real people who get out here, whatever your job is, your profession, if you're an entrepreneur, we're dealing with that type of people who have to build themselves up. You know, there are people who say, especially men will hit their financial stride around the age of 45 and moving forward. So it's kind of silly to think that somebody who's 25 or 30 should
Be making $172,000 a year. He's 24 years old.
I go over this. You guys fact check me, and because government jobs are open to the public. The mayor of New York City makes $200,000 a year. That's the mayor of New York City. The director of the FBI makes about $180,000 a year. That's the director
Of the FBI?
of the FBI. And we can go over this. You can state attorneys make about 150,000. We read a story about a young woman who was a scientist for NASA. She made $90,000 a year, which isn't bad.
And still worked a second job at, was it Tiffany's?
Tiffany's.
Right? I don't know how much you make at Tiffany's, but the fact that she had to work I know her student loans were probably whooping her tail.
I had a guy I had talked to. He was a professor at University Cal Berkeley, a professor of biology, and he still had to drive Uber.
Okay.
And while he drove Uber, in his downtime, he was grading papers. This is what it is, right? It's rough out here, y'all. It's rough outside. It's ugly outside, as they would say. And so, you know what I'm saying? All these numbers that people throw around, you gotta have 250,000, you are 500,000. Man, it ain't like that out here. It's not like that out
And
here.
even if they are, we're already reading. Even if you make $100,000, think about how much you're really not making, right? And that's what this biometrics report is.
Mm-hmm.
PFC Wells, the child care is crazy expensive for some people.
It's off the chain.
There were a lot of families, especially when we worked at Christ, that had to go back to just one working parent because they said, I'd rather stay home and watch the kids and stuff like that. It would be cheaper than both of us working, and my whole paycheck going to child care anyway.
Perfect. It was a push. Like, I'm working and just get my whole paycheck back to child care. And it's like, I should just stay home.
And at least me watch my child and not them get left on the bus and all those nightmares you hear about child care. Welcome, Let Freedom Ring. Thank you so much for joining us. Let Freedom Ring said, hello, family.
Hello, fam. What's up, fam?
Okay. And in addition to the married couple household, that predicament is compounded by the rising cost of just maintaining a dignified middle class life, right? So certain type of house, certain type of cars, clothes for the children, things that you do, places that you go, eating out, all of the things, all of the additional bells and whistles that come with living a middle class lifestyle.
And I don't want to derail her, but with these middle class lifestyles, you get caught up in keeping up with the Joneses.
Yeah,
that's always especially as you're younger, that's always a pitfall, I think. I got this car, they got this car in my house. It's like, it gets ridiculous, right? Keeping up with the Joneses. which also goes to the pocket watching, which we went into.
Yeah, we did 2 shows, 3
Yeah,
shows, if not, on pocket watching.
So it gets crazy.
So the median male worker needed 30 weeks of income, and this is in 1985, so they moved up a little bit. 30 weeks of income in 1985 to pay for housing, health care, transportation, and education for his family. Comparably, in 2018, this is 53 weeks. So what he did in 30 weeks, you now have to do in 23 additional weeks to get the same thing he got in 1985. You see how your economic energy and your economic output is being siphoned off, right? So that was 30. This is 53. We said the difference is 23. It's just a little bit, almost half.
It's almost half a year.
Right? Okay. In 2018, the combined income of married households with 2 full-time workers was barely more than what the income of a single earner household was in 1975. So the 2 of you working together was barely what he made by himself.
Yeah. It's
All
real,
right.
and I just wanted to throw this in here.
Mm-hmm.
There's I guess a Bitcoiner out there. His name is Robert Breedlove.
Oh yeah, I remember Robert
Breedlove, and he talks about what is called time theft.
Yep.
And that is exactly what she's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
30 weeks as opposed to
53 weeks.
That's time theft. And we can go in depth on time theft, but they're stealing your time.
Yes.
53 weeks is 1 week over a year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so that's ridiculous that you're losing that much value on your pay.
And barely getting the same of the person who did it at 30 weeks by himself, right? Because remember, we're talking about 2 people now. And it says 2 income families are now working twice the hours, obviously, to maintain a shrinking, not a smaller piece, but shrinking means it's still in the process of shrinking. Share of the pie while struggling to pay housing, healthcare, education, childcare, and transportation costs that have grown to 2 to 3 times the rate of inflation.
Yeah.
It's only at the 99th percentile that we see incomes growing faster than economic growth at 171%.
So one more time, we're going to have an inverse correlation.
Okay.
99th percentile of people are going down, and 1 percentile is going
up.
And these are for my people, all my science and math people. These are what you call it's called kinematics in physics, and you do Cartesian graphs, and you can graph this stuff out. This is where you get the inverse correlations. So she is speaking the truth. She's speaking the truth about the 1%.
1%, right, is seeing economic growth at 171%. Based on what I've read to you, we are seeing loss at over 50%, at over 50%, right? Because they kept saying less than half, less than half, less than half. So the bottom 99 percenters are seeing loss at over 50%. The top 1%, top 0.1% are seeing growth at 171%, which is closer to 200% than it is 100%, right? Now, the average U.S. raise in 2023 was 4.4%. I do have a great article for you guys to look at in the Dropbox, and it's forecasted to be less, which is 4% in 2024. Right now, I want y'all to keep in mind your top performers get that 4% raise. So typically, people who are less than top performers will probably see like a 2.5% raise, a 3% raise, whatever your boss decides to give you. So you want to keep the raise variation in mind.
Yeah, and so let's talk about that, because is your raise keeping up with the cost of living? That's the big question. They'll come out with a CPI index and they'll tell you, whatever it is, what is it now, 8%? 7%, something like that. I mean, you guys fact check me if you don't mind. But Michael Saylor will tell you it's closer to 20 to 25%. So who gets a 20% raise every year? No one. So is your raise keeping up with the cost of living? And that's what happens. Also, for my I'm sorry, my I guess my retired people out here, you will get a cost of living raise, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what will it be? 3, 5%?
Yeah.
So your retirees aren't even getting raises that keep up with the
And
cost
those
of
are
living.
high. Like Social Security, I think, did a
Yeah.
2.5%
And so
raise.
what happens is you see people who, if you live long enough, you kind of run out of money and you can't afford what you could afford because when you retire, in some situations, you retire in a locked in number.
Yep, a locked-in
And
rate.
you're going to get this amount percentage as you go on. There's different type of retirements. You don't always have to retire in a locked in number, but your cost of living average is not keeping up with the inflation,
Right.
and that's tough. That's tough. That's why you see older people really having a hard time as they get kind of towards the end.
Yeah.
So this is things to think about. We all have parents and family members, so these are things to think about as well.
The Colonel said every time you hear the word less than uttered in the past 5 minutes by Aaron should propel you to find ways to sustain and growth for your money and for your economic output, right? What are ways you can get your money to work for you?
Mm.
Is it possible for somebody else's money to work for you in a very legal manner? Isn't that possible, right? I want to welcome Caden Ford. Caden Ford wants to know what opinions people have on crypto wallets. I would appreciate if the group chat can help Caden with crypto wallets, only because I think that this information that we're given today is extremely important, and I want you to understand why you need a crypto wallet to begin with. PFC Wells looks like he may be pointing Caden Ford in the right direction,
Okay.
but is also saying based on your techiness and your use cases.
Yeah.
So let
I
me
know that was
go
a
ahead.
big deal because, like he said, it depends on your technical understanding and your use case. Because if you don't have a great technical understanding, you want to get more of what kind of wallet? Something more tangible, right? But if you know how to move stuff around and you can be
And you're
technical with it,
comfortable moving
yeah, and
stuff
you're
around.
comfortable with it, you can get some different type of wallets. So that's something to think about and actually to reach out to people, and they'll definitely help you.
Yeah, I'm
Definitely drop
hoping
some
that
knowledge on you.
them in the chat can give Caden a hand with some, because we've done this over the course of several shows. But I just want to get through the biometrics report for you guys before we go. So the average income growth for the top 1% was substantially higher at more than 300% of the real per capita GDP rate, according to Price and Edwards. So while they're making 300% gains, the average person is seeing more than 50% losses. That's a big deal. As a result, the top 1% share of total taxable income has more than doubled from 9% in 1975 to 22% in 2018, while the bottom 99% have seen their income share fall from 67% to 50%. Gains, losses.
Inverse correlation on the chart.
So this represents a direct transfer of income and over time wealth from the vast majority of working Americans to a handful at the very top. The U.S. workforce, okay, so what the biometrics report wanted to go into now was knocking out some of the hype. Don't believe the hype. Many people get on this computer and say, well, y'all ain't got no skills, and that's why you don't make the money I make, and yada, 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 blah, 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 blah. But we just read Jamie Dimon is not more skilled than anybody else other than he's skilled at the art of stealing other people's money, right? And forcing the average American to have to use that institution in order to make daily transactions, et cetera, right? Not saying that he's probably not a guru financially, but he's a guru financially for his own personal interests. Cool. So let's knock out some of the fallacies that people would use to explain why 99% of people don't have any money, or why 99%, let me say it more accurately, why 99% are seeing more than 50% losses, and the 1% and the 0.1% are seeing 300% or more gains.
Let's go. Before you go in, I want you to go in on the people that we just talked about yesterday, who can, the average American, who can't $200
$500.
emergency $400
I got those
fund.
in there.
Yeah, but I would like to hear about
So
those.
okay, so real quick, um,
I mean, I didn't mean to
it's
cut you off.
related,
It's
yeah.
related. I didn't mean to cut you off.
So what he's talking about is 62% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck, right? And this article that I sent y'all is,
From CNBC.
yeah, it's from CNBC, but I don't see a date on it, but it's relatively, but when you go in there, if you just put 62, it's October 31st, 2023. But if you just go and Google and put 62% of Americans are still living paycheck to paycheck, CNBC and a few other journalist markets are going to have articles out. 63% of workers are unable to afford a $500 emergency. There must have been 40 or 50 articles from different outlets
Yes.
in the search. This happens to be CNBC, but I mean, if you just do a quick Google search, you will be shocked at how many people have done an article on that particular. And when you see 63%, that's closer to 100 than it isn't, and that's the problem.
Right, and what that becomes is like people would say they're giving a specific number, 63%,
Yes.
is it? But what it comes into is the majority of Americans can't cover a $500 loss because it's over 50%. So just put it plainly, the majority of Americans cannot cover a loss of not a loss. I'm talking about an emergency of $500. The majority. And so that's real. That's real. That's a real problem.
It is a real problem.
And and this has been going on for quite some time.
Right.
And this is something we need to think about. That's why you stack away, put something away.
Last show you did you said what Bitcoin's performance was. Was it over the year?
Yeah, it was over 160%, but I can't remember the exact number.
Okay, so just Bitcoin, was that just this year? I just
Yeah,
want to put it right.
2023.
So just for 2023, it performed at over 100 and
I say 60%. Correct me, y'all. But
160% performance,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
So when you ask what's a recipe, dollar cost average Bitcoin. I don't have the numbers for silver or gold, but Bitcoin alone did over 163%, did over 160%. Let's leave it at that. Which helps you to get that gain, right? The kernel, if you go in the drop down where like our Facebook and stuff, the drop down description, all of these articles are in there. So you'll see exactly what I'm talking about for the reports that we were talking about. What would be your best recipes of practice? Dollar cost averaging, point blank, period. He said recipe time. What would be your best recipe of practices to rocket away from the 99% towards the 20 and 10%? Are you saying to like kind of mitigate that type of loss, which is how I read it? But basically, the dollar cost average, slow and steady builds the race. Your average American also doesn't put money away nowhere. They just spend it down to zero. For one reason or another, we're not going into people's spending habits because we don't have the data to really, I don't have a biometrics report in front of me to say like your average American overspends, but we know by the shit we see on our timelines, people are overspending, they're overconsuming, and there's a lot of people who are the debt, their credit card debt and stuff like that, they're drowning in.
She is right about that. Debt is a big problem. And we don't really talk about debt too much. Maybe we should talk about it more. People who have debt, and most of your debt is credit card debt and or you can get home debt and school debt.
Yeah.
These are the ones that are the largest, and this makes it hard to build wealth. Makes it hard to build wealth. For the kernel, yes, dollar cost average, and I call it chopping wood. Just chopping wood. Just do a little bit of something every week, right? Do a little bit of something every week. We all have different investment goals. We are all different ages. So when you have a different age, you have a different risk aversion, right?
Right.
So some young people who like to chase the bag on these altcoins, they have they have a little bit longer rope that they can deal with. Like, we get a little older, we got children, we got grandchildren. We want to stay a little less risk averse. and do a little safer things. I'm big on Bitcoin because Bitcoin's gonna move, right? I'm not gonna really get into the altcoins as much. I know they can move faster and up more than Bitcoin, but we have a family. We need to be risk averse for what we're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gold and silver, which has been money for what, 6,000 years?
Yep.
6,000 years.
Oh.
So that is tried and true. You're okay there. You might not get a two bag or a three bagger. You might only get 25%. That's good though. That's good if you're
Well,
risk averse. If you're not, if you're risk averse, that's what I should say.
if any of you have ever done research on legacy families,
Hmm.
when you start looking at it, not one of those legacy families made their wealth in one generation.
Hmm.
It took almost 2 to 3 generations for them to get to where they are, whether it's the Rockefellers, the Balfours, aka the Rothschilds, or any other legacy family you can think of, the Chases,
What about
um,
what about the Bilderbergs?
the Bilderbergs, the Carnegies, and stuff
Yeah,
like
all those
that.
people. Yeah.
Many of them either took a whole generation or more than one generation to get to where they are. Even this report that I'm reading to you, they're going back to 1975 for a reason, right? We're not talking about the year in snap, the year in like a glimpse of what happened in 2023. They're showing you from 1975 to 2018 should be at least spanning,
It's almost 100 years.
yeah, but at least spanning 2 generations.
But also conversely, what I will say to her is, you have these reports out that about 80% of millionaires now created their own
Well,
wealth in one generation, their generation. And why is that? Because the dollar was taken off the gold standard. Back then, there was accountability for $1 to an ounce of gold. There used to be a time you can go in there with your dollars and say you want to redeem this for
for my
ounces of
goal.
gold, right? So that's when people had to work harder, right? Over
But they
generations.
saw more exponentiality in their profits.
Okay,
They
yeah.
didn't need loans. Now, this is when it was a 1-for-1. So you guys go do your homework, right? This is before the Federal Reserve, and that's why the Federal Reserve got involved, and we'll talk about this fairly quickly. When the dollar was 1-to-1, right? We're talking about post-Reconstruction era.
Mhm.
So at that time, the black people, the black man, the black woman, they had all the skills, right? So when post-Reconstruction, when slavery was abolished, they lived in their town, white people lived in their town. And people above were noticing that all of the money was leaving the white neighborhoods and going into the black bank and then circulating the black neighborhoods because black people couldn't shop at the white stuff, right? So circling in the black neighborhoods. One of the other major critical things that these bankers noticed was that black people in their rise didn't need loans.
Break it down.
They would work and save their money, and if they needed a new wagon to do whatever it is they did, new tools, so on and so forth, they didn't need loans from a bank. The white people did, right? So they were trying to figure out how can we tap into this because our money is leaving our community, going into their community and circulating hundreds, if not thousands of times, right? Because we set up this weird, right? And I can go into why they bomb places and why they drown places and stuff like that. This had a lot to do with it.
And can I say this? And we can go into this, you guys let us know. There are people who say that segregation was one of the worst things ever to happen to black people.
Integration.
I'm sorry, integration.
Integration was one of the worst things that happened to us. And that's another show for another day. But it is economic related, so we will have that show. But I'm making these points to say that they didn't need loans, meaning that while the white people wanted debt to run the financial system, that was not the case in these days. And they were trying to find a way, how can we put people into debt to make money off of their money, to get their money, to get our hands on their money? And then we'll go into the Federal Reserve Act. You guys know how that goes. I will do a whole show on this if that's something that y'all want. But now right? Fast forward. Notice we keep talking about 1975, because you're starting to see, we always talk about we're scientists, right? We are seeing as scientists, and Price and Edwards surely saw it, the, the cause was completely taking it off of even the fractional reserve system, where the dollars were worth nothing now, right? And you're seeing now in 1975, here we are, we're going to use this as the benchmark, and then zoom towards 2018 and notice how much loss. When I said we are seeing less than 50% loss, you got to remember that collectively that number is freaking huge. Right? And then when we talk about, not that the number's not huge, you're talking about a handful of people at the top making 300% gains. Mm-hmm. But collectively, the nation is seeing huge losses, and we are feeling the effects of those losses every single day, more now than ever. Again, your TikTokers, people are getting online and saying we are making more money now than we ever have. I'm showing you they're making less than they actually should be making, and they still can't put their money together from paycheck to paycheck. Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. As a result, blah, 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 I said that already. Represents a budget. Oh, okay, so we wanted to like knock down some of the hype about education. Okay. So the U.S. workforce is now better educated and more urban than it was in 1975. It's also far less white and far less male, with white men falling from over 60% of the prime age workforce in 74 to less than 45% in 2018. In 1975, the median income of a white woman was only 31% of that of the white man. By 2018, white women were earning 68% as much. The median income of black men, as a share of their white counterparts, earning rose from 74% in 1975 to 80% in 2018. That was the only good part of the report, to be honest. Much has been made about the white male grievances in the age of Trump, and given their falling or stagnant real incomes, one can understand why some of these white men might feel aggrieved. White, non-urban, non-college educated men have the slowest wage growth in every single demographic category. In fact, white men still earn more than white women at all income distributions, and substantially more than most non-white men and women. Only Asian men earn higher. They didn't know why, right? They wrote that in the report. You guys can read that for yourself. So by this measure, we can see that in real dollars, women and non-whites have actually lost more income to rising inequality than white men, because starting from their disadvantaged positions in 75, they have far more to potentially gain. The majority of white men have benefited from almost none of this growth. Isn't because they've lost income to women or minorities, it's because they lost it to the largely white male counterpart at the 1%. They always want to blame that shit on us, and it's not us. Your boys at the top are why you're not making the growth that you're looking for, and have captured nearly all of the income growth for themselves. Nearly all of the income growth, not just your income growth, all of our income growth, this handful of people are catching for themselves. According to The Economist, Tom and Piketty, men accounted for 85% of the top income percentile in the mid-2010s. And while he doesn't specify, these men are overwhelmingly white. Thus, by far, the single largest driver of rising inequality these past 40 years has been the dramatic rise of inequality between white men. The data on income distribution by educational attainment is equally revealing that it calls the lie on the nation of a skills gap, a dominant narrative that's argued that rising inequality is a consequence of American workers failing to acquire the higher skills necessary.
Man, can we stop right there?
Mm-hmm.
There is a problem I see with people not acquiring skills.
But they're saying that that's not why. They're calling that lie.
So they're saying people who
This article is saying
have skills are still being.
No, this article is saying that people want to say you don't have those skills and that's why you don't make that money. They're saying that's a lie.
Not that money, but any money.
The loss of money is because the 1%ers at the top are taking it from you. That's
I get
what they're
that,
saying.
but people who are not skilled aren't able to get higher earning jobs.
This is true, but they're saying that when you're looking at the numbers on a whole,
Aggregate.
that the absolute problem is the handful of people at the top taking the money from the people at the bottom. That would be a small.
You think so?
I'm telling you what Price and Edwards said. That's why they said we're calling that lie. The median real income for full-time workers with a four-year degree has grown from $55,000 a year in '75 to $72,000 in 2018. That still falls far short of the $120,000 they should be earning. That they should be earning, should there be no income inequality. Even at the 90th percentile, a college-educated full-time worker making $191,000 a year. So this college-educated worker makes $191,000 a year and is earning less than 78% of what they should be making.
What are they doing?
Had it been constant, it doesn't say. 78% less than what they should be making,
Right.
if the inequality wasn't there.
Right.
That's crazy. 78% less than what they should be making.
Right. So, well, this is a study. She's breaking down.
That's nuts. All right, so they go back into saying the 50 trillion upward redistribution of wealth and income would be $297,000 a household. Let me say that again. And that, notice they're doing per household now, they didn't do per person. A 50 trillion upward redistribution of wealth and income would be $297,000 per household.
Still trying to do a show.
Right? And that's what your average household should be making, almost $300,000 a year. So this is in America, which 47% of renters are cost burden, 40% of households can't cover. This says a $400 emergency. Again, this was written in 2020. It's $500 now in 2023.
People can't do it. You guys, I know you guys are familiar with Dave Ramsey. He does a show. You got to get on top of his show. Yes, he tells you, pay yourself first. You got to put away an emergency fund. This is what we have to do starting from day one, whenever you get your first job, 21, you're 18. This is what you have to do. And then it's too many people in their 40s and 50s who aren't prepared. They're not going to retire. They told you that Social Security be gone in 2032?
Yeah.
So you can't think that your retirement is going to be Social Security.
It's not.
You got to be prepared. We have to be prepared.
It says that half, so this is 50% of Americans over age 55 have absolutely no retirement savings at all. There is a hyperlink in the article, so you can click on that. This is an America in which 28 million people have no health insurance. 44 million people are underinsured, and Americans can't afford the deductibles or the copays to use the insurance that they actually have.
And so go out here and look at all the homeless people you see out here. You see who they are. They are what would you call them? 50 and older. Look at all these homeless people. You got Skid Row in Los Angeles. It's bad in Seattle. It's bad in Portland. It's bad in San Francisco. It's bad in San Diego. And that's just the West Coast. It's bad everywhere. It is so many homeless people, and these are the people she's speaking of who weren't prepared for retirement.
And now we're going to get into it. The lower wages of the past 40 years were the unfortunate but necessary price of keeping American businesses and corporations competitive in an increasingly cutthroat global market. But in fact, the 50 trillion transfer of wealth occurred entirely within the American economy. No, not between it and its trading partners. No, this upward redistribution of income, wealth, and power wasn't inevitable. It was a choice, a direct result of the trickle-down policies. So here go your politicians. Trickle-down policies we chose to implement since 1975. We chose to cut taxes on billionaires and deregulate the financial industry, hence this article that he read just now. We chose to allow CEOs to manipulate share prices through stock buybacks and to lavishly reward themselves with the proceeds. We chose to permit giant corporations through mergers and acquisitions to accumulate the vast monopoly power necessary to dictate both prices charged and wages paid. We chose to erode the minimum wage. Minimum wage is still $7. That's nuts. We chose to erode the minimum wage and the overtime threshold and the bargaining power of labor. Labor unions were a big thing in the 70s and 80s. They're virtually
They're almost
non-existent.
obsolete, you know what I'm saying? Let's see what the people said.
Okay. And then we talk about, choosing to elect these political leaders who don't have our interests. I also have a Biden report in there. Y'all will see it. No one on retirement keeps up with inflation. Plus, you have the various taxes and fees that will increase at federal, state, county, and city levels, doing all of the money grab. That's PFC Wells. The Colonel said iCoin. Catalyst Unleashed, thank you so much for joining us. It says stay away from Ledger. They're helping her. They're helping the person in the chat who asked about wallets. So that's Caden. Thank you guys so much for helping, Caden. I appreciate it. PFC Wells just emailed me. Okay, I hope so too, because I've been answering everybody. I haven't gotten yours. And you should see my email in the drop down. Caden's new to crypto. Welcome, Caden. Let us know if you need anything. Feel free to email us. It's in the drop down. They're talking to Caden, so I don't need to read those. World of Champions, thank you so much for coming. Hey, family, glad I caught you guys. Shalom, shalom. Caden is very grateful for the information. Thank you guys for coming as a community and helping them out. The Colonel said, break down the history, Aaron. That's so funny. PFC Wells, a great book that covers this is The Color of Money. The author gives names and dates. It's a systemic setup. The laws and policies were created and used against our communities. They know the price of the money, but not the value, aka the purchasing power. So the devil is really in the details. It's true.
This is true. That's a great post. I like that.
You can make that about without a degree. Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah.
53,000 to 69,000 range, or if you really want the bag. Jump on a contract overseas, but not everyone's about that life.
Nope. And not who said that?
PFC Wells was still talking.
He's right. He's right. Everybody ain't about that life, man. You got to go do what you got to do. And a lot of people don't want to go out there and do what it is that they have to do to get what they want. And I'm not even going to go in there because I have a big problem about the way they treat blue collar workers, right? Sometimes you got to go get the bag as a blue collar worker. Everybody wants some kind of like.
But it's also structural to society, and people are not understanding the.
We got a friend. We got a friend. That's not a friend. It's a cousin. That's a family member.
What?
Daniel. Shout out to Daniel Davis.
Yeah.
He is from New York.
He lives on Long Island.
Long Island, and he is going out to Nebraska for what?
Months at a time.
Contracting for what?
I think it's some type of construction, buildings.
Right? He has to go out there in the cold. He has to do this work. He's outside all day, 12 hours, 14 hours to go get what he needs. You gotta go do that work sometime. It can't always be somewhere in the office, working from home and all this bull. You gotta get out there and do the work sometime. You gotta be out here in the cold, right?
Yeah.
And everybody, like you said, everybody ain't willing to do that.
The Colonel says, sobering. PFC Wells says, I say the same thing about retirement for military and law enforcement. I think at some point this decade, there will be a situation that would be used to change their entitlements. He said, it also sounds like we active voters are horrible at choosing the right leaders. I don't think that voters are horrible at choosing the right leaders. The problem is that you're choosing the same quarter, right? You got the heads and you got the tails, but it's just two wings on the same bird. I feel like personally, no matter who you vote for, they're all bought, they're all paid for. That's what lobbying is all about. That's what super PACs are all about. And that they're not going to have the average person's best interest when they are too enticed by their own incentives and stuff like that. I do have a Biden report. Like I said, it's an easy to read report, so you can kind of see his, I guess you would call it progress report or report card. But also you can really see clear the economic impact of his poor leadership. It is what it is, right? The Colonel said 160%. I said so many numbers tonight, Colonel. I'm not sure 160% of what?
160%, he's probably saying for Bitcoins.
Performance?
Yeah.
right? So there you go, right? There's an upward trajectory in that particular segment.
Right.
So
And
again,
so,
go ahead.
I'm
No, you go back.
and overlay that with the people who like to do traditional investing, right? A lot of people like to do, like I say, the FANG stocks, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. They like to invest there and see what percentage you would get that with overlay it with Bitcoin percentage, right? So, this is stuff that can help us dramatically. This is why we always say keep stacking, keep stacking, keep stacking. Keep chopping wood. I like to say keep chopping wood just a little bit at a time. What's the saying? Go on, give
A
it to
little
me.
dirty bill, big down.
There you go. Give it to me.
If you know, you know, said off topic question, do you test your metal when you receive them? I don't.
Well, I do.
Oh, do
So,
you? I don't.
so when I get the metal, I lick it.
Don't listen to him
Oh,
if
no,
you
I'm
know,
joking.
you know.
Nah, but I get it. We get it from a reputable
Reputable,
company,
yeah.
so it's guaranteed, and it's certified as guaranteed. It depends on where you get your metal from. Now, if you're getting your metal from places like a local coin shop and or like a pawn shop, you gotta test. You gotta test it. You have to test it. They have this metal tester. It's about $2,000 where you can test it, right there on the spot.
On spot.
Other
But
than
yeah,
that,
we do
yeah,
get it. We got the barcodes and stuff for it. So
yeah,
I never
yeah.
really
So
saw the, but that's a good idea. PFC Wells said not the blue cup. PFC Wells, we live in a house with children. Glasses get broken. And sometimes, because I just drank from the blue cup, sometimes the children break dishes. So I think it's easier for me to sometimes buy the party cups. I'm not drinking anything.
nah, she don't never
It's
had none of
fruit
that.
punch, as y'all can see. Ooh, spilled it right on my computer. It's fruit punch with pulp, right? Fresh fruits. I didn't really strain it as well as I wish I had. I'm not a pulp kind of girl. I wish I was. So that's why you see me like shaking it like, I don't like all this pulp. I just want the juice. Claude Anderson, yes, Claude Anderson does break down to mitigate the political problem. We had two of those books.
Oh yeah, more the one with the
It's
something.
gonna drive me crazy.
Yeah, something economics.
Power economics.
Power economics.
And then
Yeah,
there was another book.
yeah. So yeah, we power now. Yeah, we're big supporters of Claude Anderson, Dr. Claude Anderson, man. He gives out some good game, man. And if you check him out on YouTube, he has some good interviews and stuff like that. He has some interviews with, I believe, a lot of interviews with Boyce Watkins. He has interviews with Tariq Nasheed.
But it's Powernomics.
Powernomics. You can
And
catch him.
Powernomics too.
I've caught him on the Breakfast Club.
Yeah,
dropping some
Dr.
good game, man.
Boyce Watkins is really who pulled him out of retirement. So
Well,
shout out to Boyce
it was
Watkins.
actually Tariq Nasheed.
Really? That pulled him out? Okay. I didn't
Yeah.
mean to give the wrong credit to Tariq Nasheed. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed.
Nah, because he did Hidden Colors 1, and he brought all those cats back out.
Oh, okay.
So he brought out Claude Anderson, and then but Boyce was in it too. So yeah. Shout out to them brothers, man. Shout out to Dr. Claude Anderson, man.
Sorry, y'all.
He's a legend in the game, man.
It's so weird.
Like they say, man, we got to give cats like him their flowers.
So yes, you do have to do your due diligence on pawn shops, PFC Wells. Sometimes driving at hours worth of quality. We get our stuff from Atmex and Miles Franklin, right?
Yeah.
They are reputable precious metals distributors, right? They will send you all of the things you need to ensure that your precious metals are 100% what they say they are.
There you go.
The Colonel's Powernomics. I remember that when I went to the kitchen to get the rag.
Yeah.
Yes, Tariq Nasheed does have a new hip hop documentary coming out. Shout out to Tariq Nasheed.
Oh, it's a brother, man. I would try to get him on the show, man, but
He's so big.
he kind of highbrow, man. So it's
He's so
hard.
big.
It's hard to get at the brother, but
Yeah.
I'll keep working. I'll keep working to see if I can.
Yeah,
get it.
PFC Wells. We get a lot of our stuff from Atmex. I got all my little receipts and stuff. We also get our stuff from 7K Metals.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of that. Miles Franklin.
Yeah.
I have to go back to our residence in order to get that stuff. That was PFC Wells. Cryptonomics, Tariq Boys, especially Tariq and Boys. MWTV has aired them out with receipts on YouTube. Air them out of what? Like air them out with what? And two, I do want to tell y'all this, right? Because I know this is the era of cancel culture. If there is a YouTuber who has good information, it is the message, not the messenger. Even the Bible tell you that, right? God would use any willing, receptive prophet in order to get a godly message to the people. So if you come across, and it doesn't mean you have to follow that person 1,000%. I don't want y'all to look at us. I tell y'all all the time, right? We try to give y'all receipts. We do our best to vet out information, but don't look at us. Look at the message that we're sending. This is stuff that we do in order to launch our family into the best economic, spiritual, emotional situation we possibly can. Not everything we do, we get right. And I'm glad, right? Because failure leads to a lot of our successes. Right? And you should take on that idea too, that failure will lead you to a lot of your successes, right? That you, as a scientist, you get to go back and see what went wrong in your experiment. What variable needs to change? Do you need to change the control to something else? So when you're looking, I don't know what they got aired out about. Tariq Nasheed is a man, he got a wife and kids, and he tell you this, he tell you that. He usually has receipts. Whatever him and Boyce got aired out on, that doesn't change how legit a lot of their information is. I don't know what information wasn't legit that they got aired out from, but I just want y'all to know when you're looking at YouTube, you're looking at Facebook, you're looking at Instagram, it's the message.
It's the message.
And you do your own due diligence because sometimes people get it wrong.
You check the message. You know, there's an old saying, eat the meat and spit out the bones. So, you know, if you have good information from a person, a YouTuber, as you said, but you don't agree with everything they say,
or maybe there's something about them you don't, I don't like the way you look, I don't like
you
know,
said, if
your
they've been
spirit.
aired out by something they do, but still some of the information is
It's
viable.
crucial
It's
to
viable.
what you need to move forward.
Yeah, so you know, via doing your due diligence, be diligent in vetting out these people.
So PFC Wells, 7K Metals is a subscription program.
Yes.
It's also lightweight in MLM. It's up to you. You could just collect the metals. Simon and I don't like selling nobody nothing. I'm not a saleswoman. That's not what I do. That's not why I was put here. Some people are better off at that. We did it for the subscription. We love numismatics. We love art mint. So we were in 7 Metals for the subscription. But there is you're in the MLMs, there's an opportunity for you to make some money there. So that's what 7K Metals is. If you know, says I also do ATMEX and SD Bullion. Just curious. I've been seeing reports of people receiving fake bad metal. That's good to know because I did not know that. Did they say from which company? PFC Wells front run me on the question. Yes, Colonel Neely Fuller, and it's 9 areas of activity though.
It goes up to 10 because Dr. Frances Cress Welsing added 2 because it was 8 areas, and then she added 2 more areas.
There we go. Yeah. So
but they worked side by side.
Side by side. They're interchangeable. Simon studied Neely Fuller. He was teaching the children about it. I think they spent a whole semester homeschool on the areas of activity. At the time, it was 7. I think y'all was working on.
It was 8.
8.
Yeah, I think it's
that
8.
Y'all was working on.
And she added 2.
And it is one of the components on why Simon left the U.S. Excuse me, because he was trying to see how many areas of activity that he could sever his family from, whether partially or permanently. Even partially to him seemed like a win. Yes, PFC Wells, you should cross-reference your intelligence. That's why we always say do your own due diligence. Fact check us, right? Sometimes we deal with so many numbers and so many this and so many that we can, unintentionally give out a wrong stat, or we transpose a number, or what have you, like cross-reference. Do your own due diligence. I sent you the articles, but you can find your own articles as well, and send us some articles in order to help with not me. PFC Wells, if somebody come to me and be like, no, I ain't gonna ask again, I'm gonna keep it pushing, right? With the way Simon and I personality is set up, that's not how we make our paper.
I'd have missed the comment.
MLMs.
And no, I can't get
I ain't
down
for
with
that,
that.
right? I love
I actually,
networking.
I actually, I really don't like them. To be honest with
I
you, I
don't
understand
don't
that
like
people
them.
got to make their money the way
The
they
way
got
to
to
make
make
the
their money,
money.
but I just don't like the multi-level marketing.
Yes.
We
We
call
don't
back in
like
the
it.
day pyramid schemes, but
Or even sales in general. Simon and
yeah,
I, we're
I
just
don't
not
like
built for
sales.
sales. Two, Simon and I have this thing in our minds where we've noticed that the people, and I ain't trying to front on nobody. So if y'all are upset, I'm sorry. I don't mean to offend anyone. But people who have mastered something typically give the information out for free.
You
That's
and
why we don't sell y'all nothing. We ain't trying to get y'all into our Patreon account. We're not like, we're going to give y'all a little nugget here, but if you want the big, gigantic gold bullion, hop over to our pay. We don't get
don't
down
play
like
like
that.
that, man. You go online, man. You can Michael Saylor giving you all the
He
game,
giving you the game
and
for
then he's
free.
a billionaire and a CEO. He don't have to
But
give you
most
nothing.
people who really do have game, give it out for free.
You see, man.
So,
I know you guys don't. Well, I know you guys don't like Robert Kiyosaki, but he's been giving out game for free for many, many years. You see all kind of people giving out game
so
for
I'm
free.
I'm always leery when somebody come to me on some, you won't tell me what you want to talk to me about. And then you're going to turn around and try to sell me something on the strength of some type of expertise or something. Simon and I know that we look young, but we are 43 in dog years,
Yeah,
right?
48, 49. I
Um,
don't know. I
but
forget.
we
I
like
stopped counting.
109
But
spiritually. But like for real, our thing is freely it's been given to us, so freely we are going to give. We give you guys at least an hour and a half, 2 hours of information every single week. And we just ask that if you guys like the information we give you, all I ask is that you subscribe to our YouTube page.
yeah,
I don't ask, it's just a subscribe, hit the bell, and like the videos when you get them.
yeah, and come in
That's
here
all I
and
ask
when
for.
we go live, come in here and chop it up with us.
Yep, the engagement is the bomb. We don't even
Yeah,
have to ask for that because y'all just do
yeah,
that.
chop it up with us.
PFC Wells, I have no idea what this says.
Uh-oh, I can't see it.
So I don't know. Is it supposed to be an emoji or something? It's coming up as text.
Okay.
PFC Wells also said he's good for network, but suck at trying to. Yeah, we ain't salesperson either. I'm not a salesperson. We're not salespeople either.
Nah.
And we've done very well for our family and haven't had to sell a thing. So we go out of our way to give y'all the very best of ourselves. We go out of our way to tell y'all the truth. We go out of our way to make sure we vet information to make sure it's the truth
Yeah.
before we come to you. Like I said, if Tariq Nasheed and Boyce and whoever else people like have gotten aired out, I think they give out really good
They do.
information.
Information is good,
And we've been following them. Well, Boyce, I grew out of Boyce a while ago for my own
I've been
reasons.
following three new
But
sheets
Tariq, yeah, you've been following Tariq since 2013?
I want to say 12 or 11, but I don't. I mean, I don't watch him as much as I used to,
Yeah, we kind of
but
outgrown that lane.
we don't really have the time. But
Oh, Tron 7000 said we're doing great. So that's good, Tron. We need to know those things, right? The Colonel said MLM symbolism is fantastic. He got caught up with the flowers in 2020 and got burned. What flowers? Well, that's a phone call we're going to have to make, Colonel. I need to hear that story. He said it was a Glacius laughing face emoji. I thought it was an emoji. I said, it's coming out in text, though. People hate on Tariq, but we all know. Yeah, I think he's solid. Right? I'm not even an FBA. I know he would probably have some things to say maybe to me. Maybe he would respect me if he heard me speak. But I think he's solid. Like I said, he's got a family.
yes,
He has businesses. His information to me is solid. Hidden Colors 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I didn't get to see 1804.
No, 1804. We haven't.
I didn't get to see 1804. I'm probably not going to get to see this hip hop thing because of
But
where
he's
we
gonna
are.
have He's gonna have love for her because she's married to an FBA.
Whatever.
And her children are FBA.
Yeah, he might like that. But I ride for the FBAs. Like, I support my family. I don't mistreat them or anything like that. Tron 7000 probably feel like me. Boyce, not so much. I think I've outgrown him. I don't like some of the things he does.
I haven't seen him in a long time.
I don't like some of the things he does. Like, pay your people, right? Don't.
Yeah, I've heard
Your
about
information's
that.
great. Pay your people. We talking about money. Pay your people. Pay them on time.
Heard about that.
Even we pay our children on time, and those are people we can put off if we needed to. But we love y'all. We are at the 2 hour mark. You guys
Really?
have been incredible. But the numbers, right? That biometrics report was crazy, wasn't it, y'all? Y'all read it for yourselves.
Okay.
I just hit the hot points because I wanted you to see not only the disparity, but we wanted you to see that this economic war has been raging since. It's going to continue to rage. Only that granite ball that we talk about, it's rolling. It's rolling. It don't seem like it's going fast. Go on and stand in front of it. See how fast it's really going. It's going to run you over like a crushing ball. So we talked about Bitcoin having 160% performance. What other stock has ever performed like that in a year, Bubba?
No, you're not gonna get it.
Right?
You're not gonna get it.
And what, like we said, little Dutchy bill, big damn, go ahead and just dollar cost average into it. It does mitigate the volatility of the ups and downs, because Bitcoin can be kind of like a woman's emotion, right? Up and down and up and
And
down.
like we said, man, we always have the chief on here. He'll give you a little game on some of the other altcoins, but
Yeah, he's got that, like,
yeah, we're Bitcoin. We might be
Bitcoin maximalists and precious metals. It's just easy. We can't do that much risk.
But you
with the
guys, man,
boys.
you guys get in the comments, let us know. We love you guys showing up all the time. If any of you guys want to cam up, let us know.
Yeah, if anybody, I'm trying to get KW1 on the show. Is she still on here?
Yeah, we want the Colonel to
She
cam
said
up.
that she was going to do that for me at some point. She would let me know when. So y'all will get to see KW live and in person. We want the Colonel to be seen live and in person.
Everybody.
I would love for PFC Wells to come on here and give his expertise. I feel like he's a little on the shy side. Yeah, the biometrics report was nuts. Y'all go ahead and go over and read it for yourselves. Read the other articles I
Get my
sent
homie
you.
on here, man. Cryptonomics, cam up.
Yeah, Cryptonomics. He's always got a lot of information, and he's funny, right? So he'll add a lot of levity to the show, and we like that.
Yeah, so cam up.
But again, if you guys love what we're doing, if you appreciate what we do, the only thing I'm asking is if y'all can go on our personal YouTube page, like, subscribe,
Yeah.
and hit the notifications button. If you guys get a chance to watch it from our page, that would help, right? But we'll never ask you for a dime. We will never sell anything to you. If you ever get an email coming from Erin Simon, she's never, ever, ever going to sell you or ask you for money. So just know right up front, that's a fraud. Simon Family Investment Ventures, that's not how we don't make money off of other people's backs like that. We don't ask for money. We don't sell y'all anything. Everything we give y'all from our hearts.
Yep, that's what we do. I know we was at 2 hour mark. I guess
we are at the 2 hour mark. We have to go because it's date night, y'all.
Yeah, we're gonna go on a date. And
it'll be the first date in a long time with no babies, including the baby sitting in front of me. So, all right, let freedom ring. Thank you so much. We love y'all. We had to go out for our little date. So we'll see y'all next week.
That's indeed. 100th episode. Be looking.
I forgot.